Let's just say this. If you haven't called in a while or you're a first-time caller, we'd like to talk to you. We'd like to get your take on when is it time for revolution? If I know a vaccine's got really bad, quote, side effects like Gardasil, and they're trying to forcibly come shoot my kids up driving a white van, I'm going to try to, like, avoid them, try to legally battle them. But if it comes down to being cornered and I know it sterilizes my kids, I'm going to have to defend myself. And so I'm here illustrating what the threat is so that we collectively can just say no and have solidarity and strengthen numbers. That's what I'm getting at. Dennis in Colorado, when is it right to revolt? What is your line in the sand?
Well, my line in the sand is, well, you go back to the Bible, Ephesians 5:11, and you should not walk with evil, but you should expose evil, and that is a revolution. If these people are not exposing evil, that is wrong.
Exactly. You call it out, you don't comply, you get in his face, it's not going to survive the will of the people. Exactly. The real power is the power of the pen in your mouth, and juries and grand juries. All these guys cop out and say, when I see blue helmets, and I'm not knocking you if you say that, I get it, but I see a blue helmet, I'm going to kill them. You're not going to see blue helmets. They're not going to wear blue helmets. Go ahead.
And the other thing is, remember when Harry Dent was on last Tuesday, not Tuesday before?
Yeah.
And they were talking about Germany that was falling in a collapse.
Yes.
Remember that? And NBC News, you can look it up the same day Harry Dent was on. NBC News come out and said, Germany is the best economic recovery in the world. See how they lie?
Well, they have to prop up the EU, and Germany is the best of Europe. It's holding up Europe, and the Germans work incredibly hard. They are the most productive in Europe, but they're not having kids. And so, yeah, there's a lot of propaganda. Absolutely. Good to hear from you. William, Richard, and others, we're coming to you on the other side of this break. Wide open phones on this Sunday. From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Hey, now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
We just joined us. CNN came out in a couple different pieces we have linked on Infowars.com and said that the protesters were peaceful in Ferguson. We have another Time magazine headline when they basically say, you know, when is it time to riot? And they say, well, now basically is the time. There's the headline. Ferguson in defense of rioting is the headline. That was back on November 25th last week. When the establishment media, MSNBC, CNN, you name it, George Soros-connected groups, Democratic Party groups, have hundreds of demonstrations around the country with communist groups and the rest of it calling for violent overthrow and attack the police, you know it's bad. To tarnish protest and the First Amendment, to associate it with communism, to associate it with shooting up fire trucks and shooting cops who've done nothing, is the way to divide this country and bring it down. And that's what's going on. Media nationwide is pushing race war. That's all they've got. Aren't for Obamacare, you're racist. Don't want to turn your guns in, you're racist. Michael Moore, if you own guns and you're white, it's because you're scared of black people. That's a quote from CNN. This is all they've got while these big foreign banks that run the country loot the Treasury with bailout money, Obamacare scamming everybody, Obama opening the borders up to give free welfare to tens of millions of people, all these unconstitutional scams happening. And all they've got is trying to get us to fight with each other. So I ask you, is Ferguson a legitimate, quote, revolution? Burn down your own neighborhood. I'm not signing on to that revolution. Is this reported man in Austin, Friday morning at 2:20 in the morning, 49-year-old Larry Stephen McWilliams, shot up the police department and the Mexican consulate and a bank and a federal building? And the media, who I don't believe, but it could be true, you know, says he was basically mad about open borders. I don't think that's legitimate. I think that makes the law-abiding citizens that are against totally open borders and Obama acting as a dictator look illegitimate. He's a white guy, by the way. I'm not siding against him because he's white. Just like I'm not siding against the people shooting at the police. My reporters were there when bullets were bouncing off and cops were getting shot. They had body armor on, so they only got shot in the arms. But they're like, good, kill him. Well, kill some random person who doesn't even want to be out there at night because somebody got shot who charged a cop. And I'm not saying the police are perfect. They've been federalized. They've been militarized. And rioting only lets the feds come in and take control. And the Justice Department, the Democratic Party, have been caught, in this case, in Ferguson, and going back to the whole Trayvon Martin thing. And Zimmerman was clearly a kook. Been in a bunch of trouble after that. But the neighbors who were black, so he was banging his head in the ground. So he had a right to defend himself. There was reasonable doubt, so they couldn't indict him. Well, they couldn't convict him. He was indicted, a jury. In this case, there was reasonable doubt with the cop, so they didn't indict him. And it was a black cop shooting a white guy, and there was reasonable doubt. I don't think in racial terms. I think in terms of justice. But they don't want you thinking in terms of justice. They want you thinking in terms of race purely, because they can manipulate that. That's my view. I want your take. Pam, Ryan, James, Mark, John, Richard, William. We're going to go to everybody today. What is your line in the sand? Because there are times to legitimately have a revolution. When they're coming to take your guns. When they're seizing your bank accounts randomly across the board. We know what tyranny looks like. The government now says, oh, there's never a time to say no. There's never. No, obviously there is. But have we exhausted all the peaceful forms before we get there? A. B. Hitching my wagon to people shooting at firefighters or shooting up the police department with janitors in it at night or a federal building, never. That is the opposite of the revolution I want to be involved in. I want to be involved in a revolution of ideas and free market, where my ideas are so good and what I'm promoting is so prosperous that the system wants to join with me. Because it's a very tiny group at the top manipulating the entire system. The average person in the system wants justice, wants freedom, wants wealth. They're not our enemy. You know, 10 years ago, I was much more anti-police and military because I saw them being prepared for war, being trained against us. And so automatically said, you're the enemy. Instead of going, hey, you're being trained to fight the American people. When that's pointless, let's not fight with each other. Let's come together against the globalists. And the military and police responded saying, absolutely, we know you're right. See, that's why the globalists want to have a big fight between us, is because it's one of our biggest hopes is to do this peacefully. We can do it, folks. It can happen. The globalists' only hope is a civil war. They're going to stage terror attacks and blame it on liberty movement people. Why do they want violence? Why did they stage Oklahoma City? To blame the proto-Tea Party. They're going to do it again. I know their attack profile. I've got it figured out. It's not hard. Let's not be chumps. Let's take a few calls now and just open phones after that. Pam in Wisconsin, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Love you to pieces. I'm calling to talk to you about I believe the line in the sand for me, I am a first-time caller, is the microchipping, forced vaccination, or gun confiscation. Any one of those three things.
Me too. I'm not looking for trouble, but you push me. I'm not going to a FEMA camp. Keep your hands off me. Exactly. They start doing open authoritarian stuff, it's over.
Well, and I also want to know, isn't there or couldn't there be some type of lawsuit that would go on for that homeless guy that was shot in the back. I watched.
Oh, yeah, they're
video.
killing white homeless people. I just say that because nobody seems to care in, like, L.A. and in Albuquerque. And the cop driving up, the videos, we've aired it. Have you heard the cop saying, I'm going to kill this guy when he's driving up on the squad car cam?
That one where he was camping, the camper.
Yeah, no, the camp, but driving up, they're bragging how they're going to kill him because they're sick of campers.
Exactly.
And then they shoot the unarmed guy and make fun of him, let the dog eat him. All those guys are mental patients and need to be put in jail immediately.
And then how his leg moved, and they just shot a barrage of bullets into him. I was just sickened when I saw that video, and I'm wondering why isn't there some wealthy person out there or a group of people that can sue the city in that case?
Well, I mean, you can tell when a department's bad, and the Albuquerque Police Department is probably the worst police department in the country. I'm a news person. I don't have any beef against them. I read the news every day. Albuquerque is in the sights every day. And by the way, they're federalized. Like, take Austin. I would call it a model department just from statistics, numbers, and what I've experienced. Albuquerque is the opposite. You know, the APD in Albuquerque is the opposite of the APD in Austin, Texas. I mean, they are dangerous thugs on average. And their own squad. You haven't seen the squad car video where he's pulling up? He was fired off the state police for bizarre behavior, and he says, I'm going to kill this guy, and brags to the other cops, and they say on the tape, on the radio, the squad car, they go, why are you going to do that? And then he goes up and kills the homeless guy. I mean, again, exactly. We have a problem with craziness in this country. Whether it's in the police department or some guy shooting up the police department, mental illness is the issue. I appreciate your call. Great points. And your line in the sand is my line in the sand. Our forebears with the colonies met. They organized. They had a plan. They listed the criminal actions that had been committed, and they said, join us if you want to resist this foreign invasion of an illegitimate king who's violating Englishmen's rights. And people joined them, and they won. And then you could decide which side you were going to join. Only the minority joined the Republic, but it had the rights, so it won. That's the type of rebellion I would join. But you want to randomly shoot some fire department people or burn down your own church or shoot the police station up? No, I'm not going to join that. British government makes it where the U.S. couldn't bring in or the colonies couldn't bring in their own tea, but select groups could, and you want to sabotage a ship with tea on it? Made a big point. It's the Boston Tea Party. Smart. Designed to resonate with the people as justice in the face of injustice. It's like a black woman sitting at the front of the bus. She was told to go to the back, Rosa Parks. Those are the types of civil disobedience that I'll sign on to. Not shooting firefighters. Not shooting random cops. No. Never. And notice the enemy, the George Soros-connected groups, Time Magazine, CNN, are endorsing Ferguson. Well, you're going to find me on the opposite end of CNN every time. Just get ready for that. Meanwhile, I told Art Acevedo, the Austin police chief, he's probably been on the show 6, 7 times, in here, that his federally funded blood draw, even though I say it's a good department, it does a lot of bad federal stuff, I said it would get overturned at the Texas and the federal Supreme Court. It's been overturned at the Supreme Court once, partially another time that he claims is a victory. Now at the Texas Supreme Court last week, KXAN, a law that allows Texas police officers to draw the blood of suspected drunk drivers without a warrant, has been ruled unconstitutional by the Court of Criminal Appeals. The law allowed officers to draw blood or breath tests from DWI suspects against their consent and for that to be used as evidence against them. And they go on to say that we hold that a nonsensical search for DWI suspect's blood conducted pursuant to the mandatory blood draw and implied consent provisions in the Transportation Code when undertaken in the absence of a warrant or any applicable exception to the warrant requirement violates the Fourth Amendment, said the ruling. No kidding. So again, we spank the political people when they do something wrong. We have a debate with them, and we win. And they'll probably keep violating, and we sue again. But we don't go shoot up the police department and lose the moral high ground. Besides, these departments are all handicapped by regulations and federal control. They're just under federal command. The issue is they're under federal control. It's self-controlled by the UN, under UNESCO. Look it up. What I'm saying is don't blame the janitor for what the CEO is doing. Stop focusing on the police. Focus on the robber barons, the Davos, the Bilderberg groups up there getting, you know, $14 trillion bailouts of our tax money and stuff, of derivatives that's not even our debt. That's the crime, not like morons just running out and blowing something up. That's what the system wants us to do. They're going to do that and blame it on us. We sure don't need to do it for them. Fly an airplane into the IRS like Joe Stack did. They need that because they're committing so many crimes, no due process, tyranny at the IRS, that when they get attacked, it makes them feel okay about what they're doing. Gandhi didn't physically attack anybody. He let them deal out the abuse but exposed them, and the British Empire fell. There's a time to defend yourself, but it's only when you're cornered and don't have any other choice. Then you have the high ground. You don't go out and lose the high ground. And the globalists want us to give up the high ground. I'm going to shut up and go to your calls. Brian in Iowa, thanks for holding. You're on the air. Go ahead, Brian. You're on the air. Okay, he's not there. Let's go ahead and move on to Patrick in Illinois. Patrick, you're on the air. Go ahead. I must have a phone system problem. Okay, we didn't have that turned on. Sorry, we'll go back to Brian in a minute. Go ahead, Patrick.
Hey, Alex, have you heard about the individual in Ferguson who accidentally burned down his own home because it was dark and he thought it was a 7-Eleven? And then he attempted to dial 911, and the fire department said they're too busy. So he claimed that they were racist is the reason they didn't want to put out the fire that for his house that he burned down. But
yeah, I did hear about that. I did see that. Yeah, that's classic.
But the line in the sand was crossed a long time ago with the NDA and the Patriot Act. But we need to be, like you said with Gandhi, we need to remain peaceful, and we need to keep exposing it further till. Because I don't think your average person in the street, you're a student of history, you know, the French Revolution and the Red Brigades under Chairman Mao. The footage I see in Ferguson reminds me eerily of that. And they want to steer that towards their own phony revolution, not a peaceful revolution like you were saying.
Exactly. Look, they knew the Arab world was going to blow up because half the public's on subsistence level, so food prices go up, they start starving. They know hungry people blow up, so they then hijack it with an al-Qaeda revolution that our government funded and is now fighting to destabilize the whole region. That is so criminal. Exactly. We don't want a French Revolution here. We do not want that. That's my only point, is that if George Soros is trying to stir up socialist revolutions in America, then I'm not going to join with it. I'm sorry. Anything else?
Well, no, if you could maybe one of these days just go over and just show footage. I've seen so many documentaries about Chairman Mao and then the French Revolution. The footage is eerily similar, just different people in different clothes. It may be like a nightly news thing, but thank you for taking my call. We will move on.
Oh, it's good to hear from you, brother. We're going to go to Richard in Rhode Island. Richard in Rhode Island, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Alex. I wanted to mention that guy that provoked Jakari. He was filming Jakari as Jakari was filming him, and I believe he was an agent provocateur. He's trying to provoke Jakari, and he was trying to provoke the crowd to turn on them, Joe and Jakari, and then you could blame InfoWars for trying to incite a riot.
That's right. For that, well, yeah, my crew thinks the guy's Justice Department. They followed him around. I'm not going to. It's an ongoing investigation, but there was this black guy with 2 masks on that came over to Joe Biggs and Jakari Jackson in Ferguson last week during the rioting and burning buildings, and kept trying to start a fight, basically, and tried to get other people to attack him. And he acted like an expert provocateur, did he not?
Yeah, I mean, it came close. The crowd almost turned on those 2 guys. It came close, I thought. I thought they kept their cool. I thought they were remarkable guys. But I want to say one thing about liars. Liars usually accuse someone else of what they're guilty of. He called Shikari a sellout, right? This guy says he's complaining about oppression, but people like him oppressed his neighborhood, you know? And they lie about you all the time. I see it all the time. And you're the innocent one here.
I just want my kids to have a future. I mean, here's how I judge things. What do I want for my children who are going to grow up with your children? I want justice. I want freedom. They want to brand a peaceful revolution as shooting up firefighters. It's so simple. I can't believe Time Magazine endorses burning stuff down. Can you believe that?
Yeah, they're provocateurs, too.
No, I agree. And if they indict Brown's stepfather, they should indict the writer of this article in Time Magazine. I mean, I think he's covered by the First Amendment to endorse overall burning and rioting, because you're not calling for it in a certain spot and time. But still, I have a right to say I think it's dirty and nasty and stinks to high heaven, and I'm boycotting Time Magazine. What is your line in the sand? It's simple. If we're going to have a revolution, how do we do it? Who's the enemy? Democrats, Republicans? No, it's special interests that aren't free market that are using government to take over markets and society. It's the UN, it's Agenda 21, it's anti-free market forces. I've made films, we've named them, we've had experts on, we've documented who's behind it. They're the enemy. And that very enemy is pushing all this multiculturalism and infighting and rioting and all the rest of it because they want to wreck the society, to have the feds come in as the saviors. We're getting some of your calls back up on the screen there. I'll go to you in a moment. I didn't want to just run a Black Friday or Cyber Monday special. I wanted to run the mother of all specials across the board. High-quality colloidal silver with its great antibiotic history, highest quality silver bullet, the InfoWarsLife.com brand. Normally, you know, $25. The same brand's like $30 in major stores under another name. We've got it for $19.95 plus free shipping. Buy a fifth, 4 bottles, get a 5th bottle free. But you can just get a special on 1 bottle. We've got that going while supplies last. They'll probably be sold out within 2 days. InfoWarsLife.com. Super Male Vitality is the most popular sell we're doing. 30% off all Super Male Vitality. That's a whole bunch of herbs and extracts known to boost male vitality. It's the best out there. It blows people away. You've heard the rave reviews. We've got that. And when it comes to other non-supplement specials, we have 50% off all new Pro Pure Prepper series, gravity-fed stainless steel, highest quality water filters to purify your water at home or on the road. We have those 50% off. Basically, there's no profit in it. We're just doing this as an insane loss leader. It's super aggressive capitalism. 50. Normally, it's 10% off promo code WATER. 50% off the already lowest price. So there you go. That's going right now. We've got DNA Force. Buy 2 bottles of Survival Shield and get a free bottle of that. That's up there on the site. And tomorrow, starting at midnight, this isn't going yet, we have free shipping on select items. On Cyber Monday, free shipping on everything, and all the other specials continue. 20% off. Buy 4, get 1 free continues, and free shipping on everything tomorrow at InfoWarsLife.com. A bunch of specials at InfoWarsStore.com. The books, the videos, the Molon Labe clothing. I mean, I'm wearing the camouflage one I designed, but it's sold out. We've got the regular black ones up there. InfoWarsLife.com. Give the gift of liberty this Christmas season. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. And be sure and spread the word about local AM and FM affiliates. Support their sponsors. Become a sponsor. We've got some new limited edition Molon Labe belt buckles in, both in English and in Latin. Those will sell out, limited edition, designed by you-know-who. InfoWarsStore.com or MadeIn1776.com. And that's how we fund ourselves the old-fashioned way, not with taxpayer money like NPR, but with you buying high-quality products. Okay, let's go back to your calls. Got some calls back on the line. Brian in Iowa. Sorry the phone system was down. Let's see if this time works. Go ahead.
Hey, God bless you, my brother in liberty. I love everything you do for us, Alex.
Thank you, brother.
I just ran for Congress up here in Iowa, and I got 1.55% of the vote. I spent less than $200 to get on the ballot and to run.
Wow.
And I'm going to run in the Republican primary, and the establishment is afraid of us standing up against them. So if you don't hear the candidates saying the things that you believe in, you have the right to run as a candidate yourself. And
that's right, Brian. Even if you don't win, you're in the debates, you're on TV, you're freaking them out, you're injecting intel, and in a statewide or big citywide race, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, of free publicity for freedom. It's so exciting, and it's got them scared, so it shows they're weak.
They excluded me from the 2 congressional debates because I did not accept a single penny to run for office. I didn't accept any campaign contributions, but I'm going to run again, and I'm reminded of Justice Brandeis's quote that he said that liberty is the secret to happiness, and courage is the secret to liberty. So we all need to be courageous, and we need to help each other out.
I hear that, brother. What is your line in the sand?
My line in the sand is if they start rounding people up and putting them in camps. My grandfather was a prisoner of war of the Japanese for 3.5 years. And he taught me that if they ever start rounding people up, you have every right to defend your liberty and defend your family.
And here's the deal. The Democratic Party and the stuff that's come out in federal court, they really plan a collapse of society, a political roundup. And I'm not looking for trouble. And I want to say something. If everything goes to hell in a handbasket, I'm not going to be looking for cops. Okay? I'm going to be looking for the people that did this. And that's all I'm saying. The globalists want us to kill cops. They do not want us in a civil war to go after them. And I want all the globalist traitors to know. We know who you are. And we're not just going to have some stupid civil war. And we're going to take back the states, and we're going to statewide indict you. And even if it doesn't get you convicted, it's going to expose you in the court of public opinion. And more, you're seeing these war criminals like Henry Kissinger can't travel to Europe, can't travel to Asia because they've got indictments out on him. These people are not invincible. God bless you. Good to hear from you, Brian. Josh in Washington, moving quick. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Alex. First-time caller, several-year listener.
Good to have you. Go ahead.
I just want to go over a few points. My line in the sand is when all political avenues are extinguished, which they are not. We still have the initiative system. We're having huge victories. Look at the poll numbers. Congress has a 7% approval rating. We've won the info war. All we got to do is walk in there and take over Congress, walk in and take over the states. It's game over. Yeah, 50% of the voting pool has deserted the Democratic and Republican Party. You know, we have a big protest going on up here in Washington on December 13th. So that's 2 weeks from today. It's at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We're going to be having 3,000 people in civil disobedience against I-594. That's the expanded background check. Absolutely. That George Soros and Gates and Bloomberg funded. Yes, and they're trying to go after Nevada, Maine, Arizona. They're coming after everybody. We need to stand for right now. If you're in Nevada, a bunch of billionaires with up to 15 armed bodyguards want you and your family disarmed. What scum? We ain't having that. You know, so we're going to be up there doing that. You can see that on Facebook at I-594. I will not comply. You know, it's going to be a huge deal, and I want to hear and see the listeners of this show there. You know, I hear you. Guys are the guys. Well, listen, I'm not saying I'm for violence, and I'm not calling for this. I want to be clear, but if you're black and you're mad, don't burn down your own church or try to attack a Papa John's or shoot cops. But I mean, you know. People like Bill Gates and all these folks doing this stuff who are tax exempt and get our tax money, you know, I'd say, hey, I don't agree with that, but I wouldn't call you a terrorist if you did something, you know, nonviolent, you know, whatever to Bloomberg, who's got 15 armed guards. I mean, he has 50, I've got videos of it all over, 15 armed guards that rough people up as a private citizen, but he wants you and your house disarmed. What a piece of trash. I mean, that's the enemy right there. People like Bloomberg, people like Warren Buffett, who calls for higher taxes on the middle class, and that bastard is tax exempt. And I'm sorry. And I mean, you look at who funds gun control, open borders, breaking up families. It's Bloomberg, it's Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, and George Soros, who's a Nazi collaborator. I mean, why is that guy walking around outside of prison? He went on 60 Minutes and said he's not ashamed of rounding up thousands of people for the Nazis. I mean, what is going on here? What is your line in the sand? We're discussing that. The establishment worldwide is playing with fire. There's no way they're going to get away with this global destabilization. I just want stability. I want freedom. I think other people want that. Clearly, under Agenda 21, Cloward and Piven, the establishment's decided to try to take over with economic warfare. You won't get away with it if we've identified you. And we have. Let's go ahead. So back off now. Give up now. Mark in San Jose, California. You're on the air.
Okay, seize the prophets of Baal. Do not let one of them escape. And John's comments are taking advantage of the excited feelings of the people over the manifestation of Jehovah as the true God. Elijah called on them to seize the priestly imposters. So seize the prophets of Baal, Alex.
Well, that's true. The government's taken over the churches, and true men and women of God that love freedom are not speaking up, and that's why we're in such tyranny. Go ahead.
Well, you know, I've listened to Rush Limbaugh for many, many years, and I didn't even know about you till you ran a commercial on his program, The Obama Deception, which I quickly bought. And then it's like 90% you. And I know a guy actually that listens to KOMY 1340 from 9 to noon, and he literally goes door to door, no lie, Alex, and says, "Hey, can you please turn your radio to KOMY 1340? You won't believe what you're going to hear. Turn your radio to KOM 1340, ma'am, right now. I don't have time." And
no, I know. We're like, sure, we're beating Rush in the ratings there, even though the same guy owns both stations. So it's great. We don't mind that. Look, but I mean, I'm not here in the same time slot as Rush to defeat him. I didn't want that job. The folks that hired me like 17 years ago to syndicate my show said, "No, you're going in this slot." I had a nighttime show, and they ordered me to go up against Rush Limbaugh. So I'm not trying to defeat him, but in cities from Orlando to Rochester, New York, to you name it, to San Jose, we've beat Limbaugh on smaller stations in the same time slot. But I'm on a lot of the same stations as him. So, you know, at the end of the day, Rush has a few issues, but he's not George Soros, so he's an ally overall. And so I like seeing Rush wake up to the New World Order. That's what's really exciting. I appreciate your call, Mark. James in Austin, Texas, listening on 590 AM KLBJ. Go ahead, James.
Hey, Alex, I appreciate everything you do, man.
Thank you, brother. Go ahead.
Hey, a couple of things. I think the time for the line in the sand has already gone by. But the reason I say this is because they killed Gary Webb. They killed Michael Hastings. They're getting a lot bolder about everything. But I think if we wait until we have another false flag like 911, that it's going to be too late.
Okay, well, let me ask you this then, without giving out targets. I mean, I get legitimately we've reached the point where you could argue that people can resist. You certainly don't target random cops or firefighters, right?
No, not at all. And I think Ferguson is just them stirring the pot because that is their overall goal, to have a civil war.
So if it's their goal to have a civil war, we don't play. I mean, I get we've been abused, you know, whatted on and rubbed in, but if they want us to get violent, let's not get violent. Let's get politically active.
Right. But I think if we wait until they do come to take the guns and everything, I think if we wait until they're ready, it's going to be too late by then.
Yeah, but who calls that shot?
And how do you get them organized?
But look, the whole federal preparation, and the feds have been seized by the globalists on record, is to stop state rights movements and governors and legislatures. They've got the John Warner Defense Authorization Act under Bush to martial law states that don't follow federal orders. So they've already got that set up. We delegitimize what the feds are doing so they don't politically have the will to do it, and we have the states reconvene the republic. I mean, 3 years ago, I had the article about Declaration of Independence Part 2. It went viral. Constitutional scholars came on and said it was a great plan, follow the Constitution. It doesn't say in the Declaration of Independence we got to have a revolution to make something new. It says whatever form we choose. I like the old America. That's really the new America. You know, the new idea of Renaissance. I want that. I don't want a bunch of offshore banks to sit back and start a civil war and laugh at us while George Soros, you know, lives in Europe. Thank you, James. Mike in New Jersey, you're on the air. Go ahead. Hello, Mike. Come on down. You're on the air.
You know, line in the sand, I think it's been crossed a long time ago, probably with Abraham Lincoln, and it's such a slow step, a slow crossing of this line that people are blind to it. And the problem I'm having is, you know, a lot of my friends, they say you can't fight the system, a big attitude of you can't fight the system. How do you get past that?
Well, I found when I apply myself with truth and justice and the facts, I win every time peacefully. That people just aren't confident, they're not focused, they don't have the will to realize they're leaders. And I'm looking for more leaders. I mean, all I see in the military is people that are awake. Most of the cops I talk to are totally awake. Most of the citizens know something's wrong. So I don't know why we can't turn things around. We just got to start organizing. We've got to be serious. You know, it comes down to that. I know we don't want a civil war. I appreciate your call, Mike. Let's talk to Francis in New York. You're on the air.
God bless you, Alex. How are you?
Good, brother. Go ahead.
I'm very good. A couple of calls have actually stole my thunder. Basically, the line that will cross me is basically if you take my neighbors or their families to a FEMA camp. That will be the last straw.
Yeah, they start arresting people for political speech. Yeah, that's going to start the real deal.
Absolutely. And not only that, I've spoken to a couple of sheriffs that I know. They're very, very good people, and they said to me that basically they will never take people's guns away from people. They will never do that. Absolutely not.
Absolutely. That's why the globalists are so upset. They can't get the police and military to do what they want. So they want us to have a civil war with them to make them the enemy to get that to happen.
Yes, and I think what they do is they use the Hegelian dialectic. They use the divide and conquer strategy, like you've always said that in the past. They're very astute when it comes to that.
So we don't play. We just take back our states, take back our cities, be moral, point out the globalists are the ones making us go bankrupt, and hopefully the sheep will wake up. But God bless you. Look, we know when George Soros and CNN and MSNBC want riots and stuff, we know it's not a good idea. I'll be back tomorrow, Lord willing, 11 a.m. Pray for peace, pray for justice, pray for prosperity, pray we repent for all the abortions. I'm Alex Jones signing off. Great job to the crew. Infowars.com. The facts are in. The studies are legion. Sodium fluoride and other toxic members of the fluoride family are devastating the health and cognitive ability of the American people. So why are the social engineers adding it to the water? Simple. Dumb down the host population that the parasitic technocracy is feeding on. We may not have been able to get fluoride out of the water supply yet, but we can help to get it out of our bodies. I am extremely excited to announce the exclusive InfoWars Life Fluoride Shield formulation, fusing 6 of the best documented ingredients from around the world to help the body remove not just toxic fluoride residues from the body, but a whole host of toxic substances. Let's take a stand against the globalist by blocking their poisons with Fluoride Shield. I use Fluoride Shield every day. Secure your Fluoride Shield and other pioneering formulations at InfoWarsLife.com today. Let's start cleansing our bodies now and support the Info War at the same time. That's InfoWarsLife.com. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA. The new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Hey, now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
We just joined us. CNN came out in a couple different pieces we have linked on Infowars.com and said that the protesters were peaceful in Ferguson. We have another Time magazine headline when they basically say, you know, when is it time to riot? And they say, well, now basically is the time. There's the headline. Ferguson in defense of rioting is the headline. That was back on November 25th last week. When the establishment media, MSNBC, CNN, you name it, George Soros connect. Let's just say this. If you haven't called in a while or you're a first-time caller, we'd like to talk to you. We'd like to get your take on when is it time for revolution? If I know a vaccine's got really bad, quote, side effects like Gardasil, and they're trying to forcibly come shoot my kids up driving a white van, I'm going to try to, like, avoid them, try to legally battle them. But if it comes down to being cornered and I know it sterilizes my kids, I'm going to have to defend myself. And so I'm here illustrating what the threat is so that we collectively can just say no and have solidarity and strengthen numbers. That's what I'm getting at. Dennis in Colorado. When is it right to revolt? What is your line in the sand?
Well, my line in the sand is, well, you go back to the Bible, Ephesians 5:11, and you should not walk with people.
And Germany is the best of Europe. It's holding up Europe, and the Germans work incredibly hard. They are the most productive in Europe, but they're not having kids. And so, yeah, there's a lot of propaganda. Absolutely. Good to hear from you. William, Richard, and others, we're coming to you on the other side of this break. Wide open phones on this Sunday. From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Connected groups, Democratic Party groups have hundreds of demonstrations around the country with communist groups and the rest of it calling for violent overthrow and attack the police. You know it's bad. To tarnish protest and the First Amendment, to associate it with communism, to associate it with shooting up fire trucks and shooting cops who've done nothing, is the way to divide this country and bring it down. And that's what's going on. Media nationwide is pushing race war. That's all they've got. Aren't for Obamacare, you're racist. Don't want to turn your guns in, you're racist. Michael Moore, if you own guns and you're white, it's because you're scared of black people. That's a quote from CNN. This is all they've got while these big foreign banks that run the country loot the Treasury with bailout money, Obamacare scamming everybody, Obama opening the borders up to give free welfare to tens of millions of people, all these unconstitutional scams happening. And all they've got is trying to get us to fight with each other. So I ask you,
But you did expose evil, and that is a revolution. If these people are not exposing evil, that is wrong.
Exactly. You call it out, you don't comply, you get in his face, it's not going to survive the will of the people. Exactly. The real power is the power of the pen in your mouth, and juries and grand juries. All these guys cop out and say, when I see blue helmets, and I'm not knocking you if you say that, I get it, but I see a blue helmet, I'm going to kill them. You're not going to see blue helmets. They're not going to wear blue helmets. Go ahead.
And the other thing is, remember when Harry Dent was on last Tuesday, not Tuesday before?
Yeah.
And they were talking about Germany that was falling in a collapse?
Yes.
Remember that? And NBC News, you can look it up the same day Harry Dent was on, NBC News come out and said, Germany is the best economic recovery in the world. See how they lie?
Well, they have to prop up the EU.